and I'm going to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt. People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting. What symbol? Something elemental, something terrifying.
Hello and welcome to The Road to the Batman. What do you want to watch is look back at the Dark Knight's standalone film history ahead of his next big screen iteration. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Hello, I'm Batman.
Sure, I'll let you.
Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't sure who you were before, and then you also referred you were Batman. Alright, so please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot themes and ending of this week's film, so if you haven't watched it, come back later. Let's jump into a discussion of Batman Returns.
I've been down here too long. It's time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed.
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Released 1992, directed by Tim Burton, screenplay by Daniel Waters, story by Daniel Waters, Sam Hamm, based on characters appearing in magazines published by DC Comics. Batman by Bob Kane with Bill Finger, starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Walken, Michael Gough, Pat Hingle, Michael Murphy, and Vincent Schiavelli. When Batman deals with a deformed man calling himself the Penguin, wreaking havoc across Gotham with the help of a cruel businessman, a female employee of the latter becomes the Catwoman with her own vendetta. Dylan, what do you think of Batman Returns?
Much like last week, this is some good shit. It's a lot different than the type of Batman movies that I would prefer. It's a lot different than the type of Batman movie we're about to get or have got. However, I still think it's good. And I think similarly to last week, Batman, it's coming from a place of, and more specifically for this one, from a fan of Tim Burton. I very much enjoy this movie because this one is a lot more Tim Burton-esque than the previous one, of course. This is him getting sort of full reign, bit more control over it. I guess after the success of the first film, this film's a lot darker. It has a lot weirder characters, especially with the direction of the Penguin and everything's taken. The sort of direction he heads, even with like Catwoman and whatever. But it's like he is much more interested in the villains than Batman.
30
Batman
minutes.
Doesn't show up for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Takes Batman to show up in a film called Batman Returns. It should have been called Penguin. And Batman.
Penguin and Batman shows up eventually.
Yeah, Penguin, Catwoman, Batman's here too. But yeah, much like my positives for last week, the city, the overall design and feel of Gotham, it has like such an actual true character to it. This film, even more so than the first one, feels a lot more fantastical, Gotham as a place, than the first one. Again, covered in this sort of like gothic feeling to it. Again, manors, buildings sort of look like castles on the landscape than they do actually like tall high rises and stuff. Danny DeVito has an absolute blast in this movie as the Penguin. He would have to, I guess, get some fun out of it because there's no way sitting down getting that makeup for hours on end every day was going to be fun. But he is a very memorable character. I remember watching these. So when I watched Batman and Batman Returns as a kid, this one was my favorite for the Penguin, which may sound weird because it's just like a weird looking dude and character or whatever else. But for some reason, when I was a kid, I was like, that character, Penguin, Danny DeVito, let's go. Remembering a lot more than Joker. So Christopher Walken's good in this. He's just been Christopher Walken to a degree, but he does a good job as Max Schreck or whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
Max Schreck. Selena Kyle, Catwoman, sort of the go-to performance, I guess. Like when What's My Call came out, 2004 or whatever, Halle Berry.
Halle
That was
Berry,
one was like Halle Berry. It was like, nah, shit. Michelle Pfeiffer's sort of, I guess, the go-to most beloved Catwoman performance. I would still say to this day, I feel like most people, like, no one's really overshadowed her live action yet. Like, I know Anne Hathaway, one film,
She's fine.
very different.
Very
She's
different,
fine. I would say, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer's still sort of seen as the Catwoman. Again, a wild performance. That scene where she like comes home and like fucking destroys the whole house and whatever else. It's just like,
Yeah.
this movie is just very outlandish in a lot of the degrees. The fact, the cats all coming in, licking and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I really like the movie. I would say I like it more than the first one. It's a lot different, a little bit darker, harder to watch, I guess, at times. But yeah, I like it more than the first one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's better than the first one. I think Tim Burton gets to do more Tim Burton-y things. I think he gets more control over the script and like not having to deal with a star like Jack Nicholson, who had a very stringent schedule and like had very top billing and all these other demands. I feel like with a more ensemble cast, he was able to give like a more balanced movie, which is crazy again to say when Batman doesn't really show up till. I know it might not be Batman, but Bruce Wayne doesn't show up till like 30 minutes in at least, because obviously you open with that. Well, one of the big things is that circus crew coming in and without the giant present or whatever. Yeah, fantastic. Danny DeVito's great. Even it is this is what a movie that I hadn't seen in a while and kind of forgotten a lot of aspects for. But yeah, Danny DeVito, freaking crazy as a Penguin. A really interesting opening to the film as well, like a really like a dark Moses almost. Of the child being sent down the river, and instead of going to the Pharaoh, he goes to a bunch of abandoned penguins that are apparently living in the sewers underneath Gotham City, who somehow raised this child.
It's in like the rundown, abandoned aquatic center building or whatever,
which is built in the sewers.
Well, I guess they've floated into the sewers below that building. I know it's whatever, but
who cares?
They try to explain it with visual storytelling, but yeah.
But still, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, Michelle Pfeiffer, amazing as Selena Kyle. Interesting to read. She was originally meant to play Catwoman. Annette Bening was originally cast as Catwoman, but then she fell pregnant and was unable to do the role. So, what a world sliding doors moment that could have been. Yeah, just to, she kind of steals the show to a lot of stuff. Like, she does some pretty crazy stuff. Like, there's a lot of backflipping that is very unnecessary, but it's very good to watch.
It is funny. They take it off in I can't remember if it's Jane Silent Bob. It's like one of the Kevin Smith like films. He has a lot of like Batman plus Batman Returns references in those films, but it's like, I think it's, oh yeah, it is in Jane and Silent Bob, but when they like the girls in that movie, they try and steal the diamonds or whatever, like they're always like backflipping out of every scene at one stage there. Like it's such a like obvious.
I mean, it's when she like beats up the mugger and she's like talks to the girl and says, "I'm Catwoman."
Yeah.
And then she does like 60
just proceeds to 60 backflips out of the alley, yeah. It's just like, turn and walk. It's fine, chill.
Cats don't backflip. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I completely forgot that Christopher Walken was in this movie. But he's in it. I
had your batarang up my ass.
Yeah.
For 16 years.
And then Michael Keaton, I think he gets, obviously without having to deal with Jack Nicholson, he like gets more to do as Bruce Wayne. He gets to do more as Batman. I feel like, I know they're like figured out how to give him some mobility. He does do some punching and action sequences, at least it looks like it. And he gets really interesting movie. I think just the story, but obviously it's kind of overshadowed by the story of the villains, like Penguin being this child who was abandoned in the sewers, and his want is to come back and figure out who his parents are. What is it? Because he's throughout the entire movie, he's making this list. He's never explained what that list is.
Yeah, it's
it's first-born children. Yeah. Now I think about it, it just suddenly clicked. But yeah, was that his intention of revenge this entire time, or was that what he was plotting the entire? Okay, it wasn't just a reactionary.
No.
No.
He got distracted with the mayor bullshit, and then he's like, "All right, back to what I was actually doing."
Yeah, that's true. What a scene that is! Like the first time he comes down with half a fish in his mouth, and all these people are applauding.
I'll tell you the thing I forgot. Well, maybe I didn't really stick in my brain or whatever. He's a horny motherfucker.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
There's a part who is like real creepy. He's like, would you like to stick my flippers in you? Like,
he's like, yeah. Especially with Catwoman up in the... It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty full on. Yeah, just some of the design elements, like obviously, like Shrek's business, like all the cats on that, and then obviously that comes back into play with, Catwoman being that. Yeah, there's some really cool things, like even pulling off Penguin's umbrella, like his helicopter umbrella, like that seems like a thing that shouldn't work, but does twice.
It does somehow.
Twice. Like he also kills Catwoman. Catwoman does have several lives in this movie.
Yeah, she's got like 7 or 6 left by the end, I guess.
No, like 2 or 3, I think.
Oh.
Not many.
Really?
She got shot like 6 times.
That's why she never came back for the sequels.
Well, I'm sure
she lost them off screen.
Maybe. She's tripped over.
Yeah.
Had some bad food.
Wow, game over.
I really like the sequence with the Batmobile. Like, it's really interesting that they've obviously got this circus crew, this film, when that feels like it would fit more with Joker. Yeah.
It makes sense, though, I guess, because they're like,
really, this Penguin is more Joker than maybe Joker was Joker.
Yeah. Well, kinda. Yeah. Well, this universe's version of Joker is a mob boss, so
yeah. So they had to do something with the guy who was a mob boss.
Yeah. So Penguin, because again, they don't do a lot of like straight up explain. They just quickly go over things, but it's like Penguin was in the circus and like he helped get all these people free. And now that's why they follow him around, and that's why, because it's one of those things where if you blink and you miss that bit, you're like, why are all these people doing what he says? And it's solely out of they all owe him their life, or they feel like they owe him their lives. So that's why.
Absolutely. I really love the chemistry between Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer. I feel like, obviously they've, you think maybe they do nail that Selena Kyle, Bruce Wayne, Batman, Catwoman relationship. I think, fantastic. I think I was about to say the Batmobile sequence, with him like hot wiring the Batmobile. This is one of those things where the movie is not aged very well, but then it's like this little device, and then Batman puts in a CD to try and fix it.
Yep.
Man,
it's crazy technology. It wasn't a tape; it was a CD.
Yeah, and then he's able to escape because he destroys the Batmobile, and he has like a tiny Batmobile inside.
Yeah.
To get through
and the Penguins,
this tiny gap that surely no one would have made.
They exist. That's not a fake thing. They exist.
No one makes one of those on purpose. It's like the only purpose it is
to dead end for cars, but then pedestrians can still walk through.
Not that tiny.
And then also, I just like how the Penguin's like on that little kid's car, like dollar machine thing, controlling it the entire time.
Yeah. So I think they're making those of the Batmobile in places around Gotham City. In the 3 years since The first film.
Must be.
Yeah. Little kids want to be Batman.
The thing is also, the other thing I think is interesting about like watching these older things is because we're so used to these days, you like every like sequel's like such a like direct sequel, whereas this film's like references to the first one are, I had a girlfriend, didn't work out. Other than that, you could totally watch this movie without even having watched any of the, like the first one, and it doesn't matter. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, then Alfred, he's great again. First time we see him, I think he's bringing down some soup, and it's cold because it's meant to be cold.
Yeah, that's funny. Like he like takes a sip. He's like, "Oh, it's cold. It's blah blah blah." So it's meant to be cold. I like how then he just automatically believes him. Michael Keaton just goes back to.
He's like, "No, it's just been sitting there. I couldn't be bothered reheating it."
Yeah.
Also love him going down to the Batcave through his secret pointed tomb thing. And then Alfred saying, "I'll take the stairs," and they pretty much get down there at the same time. So, a very unnecessary segment. Dylan, is Batman Returns a Christmas movie?
I would say it could be, but it doesn't. It wouldn't be in that. It'd be a category B or C on the rating of is this a Christmas movie? It's definitely not in that A tier though.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously it starts very strong with Christmas themes, but then they kind of peter out. There's the big
I always come back to, is it set at Christmas? But then also, are the main characters heavily involved in a Christmas a lot or something? And the answer to that is no. So if you want to compare it to Die Hard, the go-to action movie Christmas thing, he's trying to save the day so he can go home to his family on Christmas. Like that's the whole point, drive. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how do we feel about this being Michael Keaton's final appearance until The Flash later this year?
Yeah, it's crazy, hey? Nearly forgot that we're getting like 2 uses out of this rewatch almost. Like,
yeah, kind of.
Get ready for the Batman, but then also it's nice to have like rewatch them this year, ready for that reappearance.
The Flash and Batgirl apparently, and all sorts of stuff. So.
But yeah, I think it's fine. I think I don't. This is back in the day where people didn't really want to get stuck down doing like all these sequels and stuff, and like it's a different age. It's funny to think like would he have liked to have changed his mind, or I'm sure Michael Keaton feels differently about this sort of stuff now because he's sort of happy to show up in Morbius and whatever the fuck else. So
yeah,
Batman, Flash, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
so
coming out.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Could be out by the time you're listening to this. If you're listening to this months later after it released, it might be out. Yeah, I think it's fine. He did 2. He did the best 2. We're about to watch the worst 2, so he got out at the right point.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I'm morbidly curious about watching the next 2 films. Yeah, but yeah, it was really a delight going back and watching these 2 Tim Burton films that don't remember that well, but now do. And very much appreciate. So yeah, let us know what you thought of Batman Returns. We're going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosion.com/Twitter. If you want to help us out, here leave us a review for what you want to watch on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or tell people about the show, or give us a 5-star rating over on Spotify. And if you're enjoying this road to the Batman, and you want to help us out, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess. Also, she puts a bird in her mouth and he puts a knife to a cat.
That's real, apparently.
Yeah.
Like the bird's real. She puts a real bird in her mouth.
Impressive.
Yeah.